Hello, Shalom Aleichem. My name is Zecharya Greenwald, and I am very, very pleased to participate in this beautiful and wonderful, one of many wonderful epic family projects. And I'd like to share with you some thoughts on communication with our children. It's important. I'd like to speak about communication with our children, and obviously we all communicate with our children, and I'm not going into the secrets of communication, but there's something that we need to know about the way we communicate with our children that is of epic importance. Because if you think about it, how many times a day do we tell a child something that they need to hear? Whether it's time to wake up, brush your teeth, get dressed, put your pajamas under your pillow, make your bed, maybe, come down for breakfast, wash Negelwasser, get your school bag together. Is your lunch in your bag? Put on a sweater. You have to get to the tender on time, to the bus on time, to the ride on time. We've already got 10 things and we haven't even started the day yet. And then the child comes home and it's put your stuff away and you have to do homework and you want to eat something and now or later go out to play, put away the toys. Nighttime, we easily speak to our children or communicate some message of something we want them to do or do not want them to do about 30 times a day. Now the question is, how many times do we say each of those things? Is it enough to say it once? Do we say it once and then it's done? Or do we find ourselves saying it once and then twice and then 3 times and sometimes more? If you'd like to make a little bit of a cheshbon and figure out about how many times you will tell your child between the age of 3 and 13, how many times you will give them a message about something that they need to do or they shouldn't do, you'll find that 250,000 is very, very small. That's on a very low scale of reality. It's going to be somewhere between 250,000 and 500,000 times that you're going to say something to your child about what they need to do or need not to do in those 10 years of their development. And now the question is, if we are going to be giving hundreds of thousands of messages to our children, what form will that message be? Am I going to say, hurry up or you'll miss the tender? Hurry up, you'll miss the ride. If you don't get dressed, you're not going to get to school on time. If you don't put your sandwich in the thing, you're going to be hungry. That's one way of saying it, and that's reasonable. It's true. If you don't sit down, you're not going to get dessert. That's true. You have to be sitting down to get dessert. You can't be prancing around the room to get dessert. So I'm not saying anything wrong by saying, if you don't sit down, you're not getting dessert. It's not wrong. The message is a real message. If you don't sit down, you will not be getting dessert. The question is, that's one way, one possibility. There's another possibility that uses more or less the same amount of words, but has a slightly different import. For instance, hurry up and get dressed so you'll make the bus. Of course, you're gonna get there on time. You're gonna move quickly and you won't miss it today. Or, I want to give you dessert. Please sit down. What's the difference between these two messages? Let's just try to analyze. Same words. If you don't sit down, you won't get dessert. Please sit down so I can give you dessert. It's the same amount of effort on my part. One is negative and threatening. If you don't sit down, you won't get dessert. Even if I say it with a smile, if you won't sit down, you can't have dessert. I am threatening my child. I am telling him the facts that if he doesn't sit down, he's not going to get it. It's negative. And it's threatening. I want to give you dessert. Please sit down. Is loving and empowering. I want to give you dessert. Now, every mother wants to give their children dessert. We didn't make the dessert so to sit in the refrigerator. We made dessert to give it to our children. And we made that dessert with love because we want our children to have dessert. So why shouldn't they know that? Why shouldn't a child recognize that you are beloved? I made dessert so that you can have it. And if you sit down, I can give it to you, which is what I want to do. I want to give you. Now, I might think, yeah, but then he could say, I'm okay, I'm not interested. And if you tell him if you don't sit down, you won't get dessert, he doesn't know that that he could lose out. He could also decide, I'm not interested. He could also decide, I don't want the dessert. So it's not like we know if you say it this way, he understands something. And if you say it the other way, he doesn't understand something. I'm not saying that say it nicely and say it with warmth and love and encouragement, empowerment, empower your child to do what's right. And then if he doesn't do it, give it to him anyway. No, absolutely not. He has to sit down to get the dessert. The question is, what's my message? What's my message when I say you're going to miss the bus? If you don't hurry up, you're going to miss the bus. And what's the message when I say you can do this? You can get to the bus on time. We can either give a message of empowerment, of encouragement, of I believe in you, I want you to be successful, or, you know what, it's not going to work. If you're not doing this, it's not going to work. So you're going to miss the bus, you're not going to get to school on time, so you're not going to have your lunch, you're going to be hungry, you're not going to get your dessert. If you don't go to sleep on time, you're going to be tired tomorrow morning. And I can give 100 messages time after time after time, and every message is a negative message. If a child hears a negative message, a negative threatening message, 300,000 times, what is that to do with the programming in his brain? How is he going to think? Is he going to think, I can do it, I'm going to make it, I'm going to be successful? Or is he going to be thinking, I'm going to lose, I'm not going to get it, it's not going to work, I can't do it, I don't know if I can do it, I'm going to end up missing out, she doesn't want to give it to me, they don't like me, they don't want me to be successful. What's the message? If a child hears a message hundreds of thousands of times, of course it makes erosion. Of course, it makes an imprint on their thinking patterns. Hundreds of thousands of messages make an imprint on the way we think. And if you think about why so many of us have a negative thought process, where there's so much anxiety in the world, and how much kids don't believe in their ability to succeed, it's partially, and maybe to a good point, I don't know how to figure out the percentages of our thought process and how we're affected, but it's clearly an element in our thought process is the hundreds of thousands of messages we've gotten from people who love us, who we depend on, who we trust, and who supposedly want what's good for us. So I won't even say supposedly, who definitely want what's good for us. But what does a child think? What does it mean in his head? What's the message that he got? When he starts thinking, he's going to say, okay, I'm not going to miss the bus. I'm going to miss the bus. I'm going to miss the bus. I'm going to miss the bus. If you think about missing the bus all morning, you're going to miss the bus. If you think all morning that you're not going to get the cookies and milk until you do your homework, you know you're not going to get the cookies and milk. No one's going to want to give you the cookies and milk. If you know that if you're not going to go to sleep, you're going to have a hard time waking up, you're going to have a hard time waking up because you're thinking that negative all the time. And if you think you can do this, you can do this, you can make it. I know you can do it. I know you want what's right. I know you want what's good. I know you can do what's good. I know that you have the power to do it. Then that's a message that tells a child, yeah, I can do something. And when something new comes up, and all of a sudden, boy's 15 years old, and somebody suggests an idea, which might require some challenge. So one kid's saying, no, I'm never going to make it because I'm not going to do this and I don't do this. And if I don't do this, that's not going to work and it's not going to work. And then there's the kid who says, yeah, I'm willing to try. Do you know why? Not because he was necessarily bought with that positive initiative, but he was trained to think, I can do things. He had thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of messages that told him, you can do this. So when something comes up, he says, yeah, why not? Let's try. How many people don't take initiative in life? They don't take initiative in life. They do what they're told to do. They try to fulfill their responsibilities. They're always sure that they're not going to make it. It's so common. It's so common in our world. So many of our kids just don't believe they can do it. A negative message about their Yiddishkeit, about their this, if you wear this, if you don't do that, if you do that. The threatening, the mind-boggling amount of messages that children get to tell them that they're not good enough and they're not going to make it and they're going to fail and they're going to be punished and they're going to be hurt and they're going to lose out and they're not going to make it. And it has to do with everything. It has everything to do from brushing your teeth. Like, come on, you want to have strong teeth, brush your teeth. Or if you don't brush your teeth, they're gonna rot. You're gonna have 100 cavities. You're gonna have to take you to the dentist. Though it's the same message, the same word. It's the same concept, the same idea. You want the child to brush his teeth, so tell him to brush his teeth in a way that he's motivated to do it, that empowers him. But then we start thinking, yeah, but the threat carries more weight. Carries more, there's more of a bang in the if you don't, then you won't. That makes a kid think. Then ask yourselves why you have to say it 3 or 4 times. Ask yourself, why is it that you're constantly threatening? Is that what we want to train our kids to think? That the only way that things happen is if they get threatened? When we threaten, that's what we teach them. If we threaten all the time, when we don't threaten, they say, okay, he's not serious now. What you really want to do is to give your children the sense that you care about them. You want what's good for them. You love them. You believe in them. You know that they can be successful. You know that they can accomplish the mission or the momentary challenge. You go putting away their bag so that they can get cookies and milk when they came home from school. It's so minimalistic. It's so small. It's so seemingly insignificant. But if they hear every single day for 5 years, you're not getting your cookies until you put your school bag away. First of all, ask yourself why you had to say that every day for 5 years. Obviously, the threat didn't help. It didn't teach them something. It didn't empower them. It didn't make them feel good about themselves. It didn't get them to do it the next day. Anything that you have to say every day, all the time, is obviously not working so well. You didn't get the message across so well. On the other hand, when you empower a child, and he knows that he's successful and he's going to do it and he can do it, after a while you'll find that you have to say it less. It was when you want to see how your child reacts, say it one way and say it another way, and watch the reaction. You can try this just one day. One day decide that this morning I'm going to say everything this way. Watch your child look at you, respond. I can't guarantee that immediately there's going to be a turnaround, but you will see the difference in the response of a child to a positive message and to a negative message. We think the negative message is more powerful. We think that the threat carries more weight and that's going to cause them to do something right. When in truth, what causes somebody to do something right is that he feels good about himself. He feels ready. He feels that he can do it. He feels that he wants to do it. Because every kid wants to be successful. It's something we need to know about our children and about ourselves. There is no such thing as a child that does not want to be successful. You can tell me that there's a child like this, and you once had a child, and there's one son, and there's one daughter, and there's a neighbor's kid, and you know kids that are just, there's no such thing in the world as a child who does not want to be successful. There's only such a thing as a child who doesn't believe they can be successful. And when you don't believe you can be successful, so you don't try. So you give up. So you don't want it. Why should I want to do something that I can't do and I'm not going to be able to do well and I'm never going to be successful at? Think of the things that you do well, that you're motivated to do. The things that you don't like to do are usually things that you don't do very well. The things that you're less likely to feel good about, less likely to succeed. How many of us review material that we failed? If I learned a Masechta and I took a test on it and I knew it, I'm likely to go back to that Masechta. But if I failed, so if I'm a highly motivated person that realizes that I need to know this information because I'm a Yid and I need to learn Kol Torah Kula, so maybe I'll go back to it. But if I'm a normal, regular student who didn't do well, so I don't really like Gemara so much. So a kid loved Chumash, he loved Mishnayos, now he doesn't like Gemara. If you don't study, you're going to fail. If you don't study, you're going to fail. If you don't study, you know you're not going to do well. The Rabbi told you that you're not studying enough. The Rabbi told you have to chazer. The Rabbi told you, why aren't you studying? Don't you realize what's going to happen? You're going to go play now, and then when you come back, you're not going to have time, and you're going to fail again. Okay, yeah, that's probably what's going to happen. But you can do this. I know you can do this. Let's go. Let's try one more time. I know it's hard. Yes, you want to go to your friends. You're going to go to your friends afterwards. But let's do this one more time because this time you're going to pass. This time you're going to do better. This time you're going to show that you can do it. It's a different message. And it's a message that allows a child to believe, I can do something. I'm worthwhile. I can succeed. We give these messages so many times. We're doing so much to tell our kids, to help our kids know what they have to do, what they're supposed to do, what they need to do. We spend so much time and effort telling our kids what they shouldn't do, what they're not allowed to do, what they absolutely should not do. And all of those messages can be given one way or the other way. Every single one of those messages. There's no message in the world that you can't word in an empowering way, in a way that shows that you believe and that you want the child to be successful, and or in a negative way that's a threat. Could you imagine someone who thinks their whole life in terms of what's going to happen, the bad things that are going to come out of what I did or didn't do? Somebody who their whole day is thinking, it's not going to work, it's not going to work, it's not going to work, this is what's going to happen, this is what's going to happen. So when something new comes along, why? I'm not going there. Do you know how many things could go wrong? Do you know what happens when things go wrong? I've been trained my whole life to think about how things go wrong. I've been trained my whole life to think negatively. I've been trained my whole life to think how it's not good and it's not going to work and it can't work. And what's going to happen to me as a result, and what I'm not going to get as a result. So now I have a new situation. Something is, whoa, it's exciting. They come and say, okay, who wants to volunteer to do this? There are always those one or two kids who get up and say, I'll do it. Look into their background a little bit. The vast majority of those kids are kids that were taught that they can believe in themselves because their parents believed in them. And they know their parents believed in them. And the other parent said, yeah, but it's my chiyuv, as a father, as a mother, it's my responsibility to criticize them and to tell them when they're doing something wrong. They have to know that they're doing something wrong. It's the same concept. Why is it? Let me ask you a question to ask yourselves, and with this I'm going to more or less close off this session. Why is it that when somebody does something wrong, we find it absolutely necessary to tell them that they did something wrong? Because otherwise, they won't know. When we do something right, we don't necessarily feel the need to say, oh, that was good. Why? How do we think? Do we think positive or do we think negative? How do we want our children to think? Do we want them to think positive or do we want them to think negative? The messages that we give to our children every single day, the compliments, the encouragement, the good word, the message that says, I want you to have this. I want you to do well today. I want you to you can get to school on time. Every single one of those messages is something that is planted in his head once, twice, 3 times, 100, 200, 1,000, 10,000, 20,000, 100,000, 200,000. Know what power we have as parents? Epic parents. You have the power to give your children power. It's just about how you say what you say. And we should all, Mitzvah Hashem, have wonderful nachas from all our children and do our best to think in a way that we can give over the messages that we really want to give our children so that they can be successful in everything that they do. And in Mitzvah Hashem, Kadosh Baruch Hu should have nachas from us and from them.